Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. We're sitting today with a full group of council members, as well as our clerk, as well as other staff. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 1 p.m. Our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges their resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. I don't believe we have any additions to the agenda today, so we'll move on to 4.1, motion to confirm the agenda. The pre-prepared motion is that the agenda for the regular council meeting held on April 16th, 2024 be approved. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mark, seconded by John. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 5, declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Is there any declarations today? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. Item 6, I don't believe we have anyone in the audience for questions. Do we have anyone online by any chance? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 7, presentations, none. Item 8, public hearings and meetings. 8.1 is a motion to go into a public meeting session. Prepared motion reads that council go into a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act at 1:02 p.m. on April 16th, 2024. I have a mover, please. Moved by Bruce, seconded by Larry. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8.2. Being a zoning bylaw amendment for Baltimore Estates Phase 2. Jennifer, do you have anything to provide for us on this?
Through you, Mayor Jib, this is an application for a zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 02-2024. It's to amend the zoning on a parcel of land owned by Baltimore Estates. The property is located in part of Lot 6, Concession 2, in the settlement area of Baltimore. These lands are part of a plan of subdivision. Phase 1 has been developed. It's known as Archibald Court, and this is an application to rezone the lands for phase 2. And phase 2 consists of 32 residential lots, 1 block for a walkway connecting the subdivision to Gordon Street, an internal road that is an internal road, and the internal road will connect to a subdivision located the lands immediately to the east, for which the township has received an application for draft plan approval. Staff have requested that the applicants for both applications provide for a connection to allow traffic to flow and pedestrian traffic to flow from both plans of subdivision. So the application is to rezone the lands to the urban residential first density zone, and there's a slight modification to the EP designation along the northern boundary of the property. So the holding provision will be removed from the UR1-H. The H will be removed. So the provisions to the of the urban residential first density zone will apply to the lands. These lands are currently undergoing final review for their engineering submission. They've submitted a third submission for engineering. It's been reviewed by the municipal engineer, and those comments have been forwarded back to the applicant. Lands in this area, as I mentioned, the lands are located in Baltimore, a designated settlement area, which is intended to be a focus of residential and community development within the municipality. The Baltimore Arena is located to the west of the subject property. Archibald Court is located, the phase one of Baltimore Estates is located to the south of the subject property, and the lands to the immediate east are currently under consideration for an application of residential draft plan of approval. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, which directs residential development to areas that are designated in the official plan. There are policies in the provincial policy statement requiring the protection of natural heritage features. One healthy butternut tree was observed. There were a number of butternut trees identified on the property. However, one healthy butternut tree was identified in the northeast corner of the property, and influence area has been provided for that tree. There's also a wetland area located in the center of the property, and those lands will similarly be protected. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The subject lands are not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan doesn't apply. Northumberland County official plan designates the area as a rural settlement area, and rural settlement areas are intended to provide for a variety of uses, including residential and commercial development. So Northumberland County granted draft plan approval for the Baltimore Estate subdivision on December 7th, 2006. So it's been a while. And this application is the final planning application that's required to facilitate the development of this subdivision. We're now going through the technical exercise, making sure that all of those things are dealt with. But then, oh, sorry, I misspoke. It's the final application for which the municipality has jurisdiction over. They're working through final approval in which they have to address the clearances of draft plan approval. Once all of the conditions of draft plan approval have been fulfilled, we'll bring forward a motion or a report to council that will ask for council support for final approval of the subdivision, which is then finally approved by Northumberland County. And one of the documents that the municipality will be required to enter into is the subdivision agreement that will deal with the technical aspects and the responsibilities of both the municipality and the developer. So the subject property is currently zoned urban residential first density holding and environmental protection wetland. The urban residential first density zone permits a single detached dwelling and accessory uses. And the minimum lot area requirement is 0.4 hectares when the lots will be serviced by private water, and the minimum lot frontage of 45.76 meters. The proposed lots comply with these requirements. The application was circulated to a number of agencies, and we have received responses from the Hamilton Township Building Department that commented that they have no objections to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Public Works commented that they have no concerns with the proposed amendment. The Hamilton Township Fire Department requested a holding tank and pond and dry hydrants and a number of things that should have been addressed at draft plan stage. These aren't things that we can generally put in place now at the time of an application for a zoning bylaw amendment and during the third submission of an engineering review. I discussed this with the fire department, and they recognized that asking for these at this point in time is probably not realistic, but they still wanted their comments in the report. So those are in the report. In the future, when we receive an application for draft plan approval, if the fire department wants ponds, dry hydrants, that sort of thing, that is the time that we look at having that type of condition included in the conditions of draft plan approval. Northumberland commented that they have no objections with the application that will facilitate the development of phase 2, and Trans-Northern Pipelines confirmed that they have no infrastructure in the area. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 120 meters of the property on March 27th, and a sign was posted on the property on February 21st. And Yes, 21st. And we have received no comments to date. I apologize. I believe the date that the sign was posted was actually March 21st and not February 21st. I apologize. Since the writing of the report, I understand I was away for 2 weeks, but one public comment was received from an adjacent landowner. It's one of the owners of the property to the immediate east of the property that's currently undergoing application for draft plan approval. And there was a little, it wasn't clear to them that this was an application for a zoning bylaw amendment. It wasn't dealing with the technical aspects. They had a question regarding the road connection. So they didn't have any concern with the zoning bylaw amendment, just that this application will facilitate is the next step to get the property properly zoned. So the zoning bylaw amendment will facilitate the development of a 32-lot subdivision in a designated settlement area. The third engineering submission has been reviewed by the township's engineering consultant. There are only a couple of minor outstanding issues that need to be addressed. The subdivision is being developed on private services as permitted by the township official plan. While parts of Baltimore are serviced by municipal water system, the system does not currently have the capacity to service the additional development. The township has commissioned a water master plan, which will explore capacity and delivery issues for the Baltimore system. The environmental impact study was undertaken for the property, and one wetland area within the subdivision and the wetland area along Community Center Road will be protected, along with the one healthy butternut tree identified on the site. Hydrologic and site servicing study was prepared for the development, confirming that the site is appropriate for private services. And once all of the conditions of draft plan approval have been fulfilled, the township will enter into a subdivision agreement and the developer will be able to proceed with the development. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, complies with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, maintains the intent of the Hamilton Township and Northumberland County official plans, and it's recommended that the zoning bylaw amendment be approved. I'll just note that Randall Dickey, the applicant's planning consultant, is here, who I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions if council has any questions of him also. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. A lot has changed since this proposal first hit the table in 2006. Wow. Is there anyone wishing to speak that is in support of the application? Mr. Dickey, you can certainly feel free, and or if you just wish to answer questions of council, then that's an option as well.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I'll be very brief. My name is Randall Dickey. For the record, I am the agent. I'm also the planning consultant. And yes, we've been working on this project for a long time. When it started, I believe Councillor Mark was the mayor at the time. But it's been a good process, but it's been a long process. But I think we're getting close to the finish line now. I thank staff for that excellent presentation. I don't think that there's anything that I can add from a technical perspective. I think Jennifer covered everything. I would just like to point out that phase one is completed. It's now been built out. We've now spent the last few years working on the final phase two, which is what is before you today. And we hope that this is the final step towards the necessary approvals so that we can get into this subdivision agreement and wrap this project up with the township and hopefully get construction started. There's been a lot of good discussion over the last few years. We went through COVID, we went through economic uncertainty, but we've had discussions. The proposed road at the north end was adjusted based on environmental discussions with the Conservation Authority that took some time. We've now provided for an adjustment at the south end, at the bottom end, to allow for a future connection to the subdivision to the east. So I think at the end of the day, the plan has been improved. And I think All the agencies are now happy, and I think that's reflected in the staff report where there were no objections from agencies. So at this point, I would just like to reiterate what Jennifer said, was that the zoning bylaw amendment before you today is to sort of fine tune and finalize the final boundaries between the lots in the environmental protection areas. And that's what we're doing here. And the second component is to lift the hold so that we can get into the agreement. At this point, I would just like to personally, I would like to note a personal thanks to Daphne Livingstone, to Jennifer Current, and Julia Pingle of your staff. They've brought energy and professionalism in wrapping this up over the last few years. And I know I've worked in municipal side as well. Sometimes the only comments are negative. So when there's an opportunity to say something positive, I like to make that statement. So thank you to the staff for making that happen. At this point, I'd be pleased to answer any questions that council may have. And I hope that we can adopt this bylaw amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will just canvass the room because I don't believe there's anyone present, but a process we must follow. Is there anyone present that's opposed to the application? Seeing none, is there anyone seeking clarification for the application? None. Do we have any questions? Thank you for your positive comment about staff. And you're very correct. We seem to be a little shy of those positive comments sometimes. When we get them, it's appreciated. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on in our agenda. And under 8.3, we'll rise from a public meeting session and reconvene the regular council. And the prepared motion reads that council rise from a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act and reconvene to a regular meeting of council at 1:17 p.m. on April 16th, 2024. Of course, the very next item on our agenda is the Baltimore Estates. And, oh, mover please, and seconder. Bruce, move. Larry, second. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next motion is prepared motion is dealing with the Baltimore Estates, that bylaw 2024-21 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2001-58, the comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended be given first, second, and third reading, and finally passed the 16th day of April, 2024. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Mark, second by John. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on, 10.1, Special Council, April 9th, 2024 minutes. Prepared motion that the minutes of the April 9th, 2024 Special Council meeting be adopted. Mover, please. Bruce, seconder. Larry. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 10.2, Council, March 19th, 24 minutes. Prepared motion that the minutes of the March 19th, 2024 regular meeting be adopted. Mover, please. Mark, seconder. Larry. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 10.3, Committee of the Whole. Motion reads that the minutes of the March 12th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted. Mover, please. John, seconder. Bruce. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Business arising from previous minutes. The Intermunicipal Task Force on Homelessness, referred from February 20th, 2024. Consideration of the council appointee. Now, this has been discussed not that long ago. Arthur, could you provide a quick overview of why we might look at this differently today than we did just a few short months ago?
The only, through your chair, the reason we're bringing forward is that the committee actually did meet on March 4th.
Arthur, is your microphone on? Sorry.
I'll do both. I'll speak louder as well as into the microphone. Thank you. So thank you, Mayor Jib. The reason we're bringing it forward was that the Homelessness Committee, the Northumberland Intermunicipal Task Force on Housing and Homeless Committee, met on March 4th. We've attached the minutes from that meeting, and they can see that there was a fairly wide range of discussion, and the items were identified there. We were flagging it to council to let them know that that committee is continuing, and to determine if council in fact wanted to have an appointee from our township to that group.
Thanks, Arthur. Mark?
Just a question, Arthur, and I'm not sure if you even know the answer or not. I see Jennifer Moore was at the meeting. Where do these minutes go? Do we know? Are they considered at county council level, or are they just?
I don't believe they're, it's not a committee of county council. So I don't believe it's going back as being received by that committee. Not sure if, and the mayor's confirming they don't go back there. I think it's an attempt to share information amongst the area municipalities on this issue. They're meeting independently. They did have county CAO in attendance for a portion of that meeting. So there was some degree of support provided, but as far as staff, but I don't believe that's sort of an appointee from the county, and that's not an ongoing role that she would perform.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I'm just a little worried that sending a representative here and having no purpose to the end result is kind of not very beneficial to anyone. So I'm just not sure where these, like, are they going to be circulated amongst all the municipalities after they have a meeting each time? And I'm just a little lost to why this group is even meeting, even at this point.
Just in response to that, through Mayor Jib, the attendees from the respective municipalities are identified on these notes, and they all receive copies individually from that to take back to either the councils or to their colleagues or to groups that they're involved with in the respective municipalities for information sharing.
Larry?
Thank you to you, Mr. Mayor. Mark, in the document, I think this group is really concerned about the fact that the county's been moving forward on this 310 Division Street, and there's been so much confusion and so much released irregularities in releasing. But they do say that they believe, this committee believes, that the Lower Till councillors are the front lines of the public engagement, and that we've been improperly informed. And the county has been more reactive rather than proactive. They also indicate that the lower tier council involvement should not determine the autonomy of the members of the county council. It stems back to their concern that because of the weighted voting that's on county council, that, you know, we're not getting a fair vote in any decisions that the county may make with regards to homelessness, or specifically to the warming centers in this place on 310 Division Street. It seems to me that some of them have even left, you know, before the meeting was over.
Yeah.
Is it necessary to have this committee? They believe so. We were the only township that was not on the committee, but we felt at the time, until there was some, you know, constructive formulation for this committee, that we not become involved, I think. But it's just, I think there's been so much confusion over this issue of homelessness, and then it goes on to talk about seniors and you know, homeless themselves, you know, families that are homeless. So it's just such a complicated issue. And the bigger thing is that this program doesn't really provide enough infrastructure with regards to social services to support the homeless. That's one of the issues they have right now. So I don't know whether we should be involved or not.
Thanks,
You may
Larry.
have some insight from the county's position.
Well, John?
Through you, Mayor Worship, Mayor Jib, when you talk about misinformation, I think that's one of the things the committee's brought forward. And I think they're being misinformed as well, because I think the county has been also reactive and proactive in a way. They're supporting churches to open up their facilities for housing, not for also for housing, but for overnight stays, meals, accommodations. So they have been. So when this committee comes out and criticizes in that aspect, I find that very disheartening, because they're there as a representative of municipalities who want to be the forefront of this. And yet now they're misinformed themselves, because now they don't really know all the ins and outs of what's happened at the county level. So this is where the controversy takes place at our lower level, because I feel that there is a necessity for it, but we should have one standalone group that everybody stands behind, that gets involved and moves forward with this. I find these little subcommittees don't accomplish much.
Mark?
I just found that after reading those minutes, I didn't see any conclusions to anything. I didn't even see a motion to what direction they're even trying to take. So I'm a little lost in that whole committee and what they're doing and what they hope to accomplish. I mean, I know you tried to help out Larry in some of your explanation, and some of that I kind of thought ahead of time until I read the minutes, and then I thought, wow, some of them left the meeting early. Some of them, most of what was said was just, I don't know, it's just more or less just conversation. Was it really any conclusions or anything that grew from it?
Larry?
I think it stems from frustration that there's been so many news items that talk about homelessness and the negative impact it's having within the community. The biggest majority of this comes out of Cobourg.
Yeah.
That's the biggest criticism that comes up from Cobourg, that Cobourg itself has made some, issues come about that nobody knew about until they were done, So whether this committee is going to fulfill an obligation or a mandate, I'm not sure. They haven't identified that mandate, right? So I don't know, maybe, the mayor might give us some insight from the county's perspective of this committee.
I'm not sure I can do that accurately. It is not a recognized committee of county, first. It is a parallel committee as far as the primary objective is concerned. The transfer of information is very difficult for me to comment on. And the reason for that is that I would have to have an opportunity to draw my own conclusion of what I know that is in a closed session of council versus what is in an open session of council. And I certainly don't want to cross that line at this point in time without consideration of that. Yes, there's been tons and tons of conversations, directions given, follow-up reports, follow-up complaints, delegations. I don't know how many line entries it would be on the homeless topic. I will simply say that from my own understanding and perspective of what I have today versus what I had a year and a half ago is very different. And again, I'm not willing to, in our open council, reflect on that. Again, because of the confidentiality nature of some of those thoughts and actions. I will say that if one were to look at the county budget and one were to look at the dollars dedicated to all of those components, the homeless, the social assistance, the housing, the purchases of properties, the development of properties, the maintenance of properties, one could only describe it as millions and millions and millions of dollars. And yet at the same time, it would be very easy for someone to say, we are falling behind, because I believe we are. I don't know whether that's given you any conclusive thoughts or not, but I'm afraid to say that's all I can really share today. If you would like me to get an official response, I would reach out to county and say, what can I share? And get clarity on also what I can't share. However, don't expect that report soon because it's lengthy. And I'm sorry, I can't provide a whole lot more. My own personal opinion on an appointment person to this committee would be that it would keep us in the loop. Maybe in a loop that we don't want to be part of, but that's maybe putting us ahead of where we are today. I will turn it over to any other thoughts or questions. Larry, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess the only comment I have is for us to participate in this committee is, along with all the other councillors or municipal people, is that it shows the fact that we do care about this condition we're facing. And by not having a member on the committee, that would indicate to others that we don't really care, and we do care. We do have homeless within our community. And from what I understand is that some of the homeless who are in Coburg right now are residents or former residents of Hamilton Township, who by no fault of their own or through their fault of their own or whatever, have found themselves in a situation that they're involved in this initiative. So maybe we should have a member on the committee, if, as the mayor suggests, is to keep us in the loop so that at least we care and we'll keep knowledge about what's going on. That's only my comment.
Any follow-up comments, Mark?
Yeah, the last thing I think we want to perceive is that none of us care, because I think everyone in this room cares, and not just us, but the staff and everyone else. The only thing that worries me on this committee, or the biggest thing I see as a falter on this committee, is there's no staff there to answer or do some of the work that may need to be done. And where this, as I mentioned before, where does this direction go? And those are two things that really put me in with the red flag. As I'd love to see a staff member of county council, or of the county, not county council, but of the county there at least, that's in social services. And maybe it'll be a different one monthly or whenever, however often these people meet. And because at least then you get answers, and you get real answers. You don't get answers from other counselors that may or may not be right. And the other thing that, as I mentioned, bothers me is that I'm not sure where these minutes go. I mean, if they're just going to go to us, I mean, we can have a meeting, but I just hate wasting people's time having meetings for the sake of meetings. Anyways, I'm game for putting someone on there, but also those are my concerns. I'll throw them out there.
Would we as a council consider appointing a person to this committee with the objective of getting additional information and come back and at least appoint a person for an interim period of time to, again, get information, to get internal information, shall I say, and bring it back to this council, and with the understanding that we could review that appointment or change the direction of having engaged people from Hamilton Township there. We want to give it a 3-meeting try or something like that. I think that we might be heading in the right direction, at least on an interim basis. Anyway, I ask you for a motion from someone if we're interested. Bruce?
Yes, Mayor, how often they meet, do you know? Doesn't say
That's-
there when they had their first.
That's an
last
unknown to
meeting,
me. I understand, yes, I do recognize that now. They've only had the one meeting. There's no indication that anybody is aware of. what would you like to do? Larry?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, I guess poll council and say, is there anybody interested in getting on this committee to find out more information about this? Or, or what? Mark, you seem to have some good criticism of the process here. Maybe you'd like to take that on.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
If I go in that meeting, I think that's what it's like. And, we'll deal with it.
So would our motion be to ask or direct Mark to attend the next meeting and provide a report back on his participation and thoughts? Would that be okay? Bruce? Okay, did we have microphones on? Bruce is making the motion that Mark represent us at the next available meeting that he can attend. And it's been seconded by Larry. Any further discussion? John, you have a question or
Yes, through
comment?
you, Mayor Jeb, who do you contact? Who's the contact person in this committee? I see a lot of names down here, but is it the counselor from Brighton Town?
That is the person who was spearheading it initially, yes.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Been seconded. Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thanks, Mark. Okay, moving on in our agenda, 12.1. A prepared motion that the agenda items 12.2 to 12.7 of the April 16th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be received for information. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Twelve point four, Police Service Board. Get this on the floor. We do have a prepared motion that the following recommendation from the 2020. I shall start over. That the following recommendation from the February 22nd, 2024 Police Services Board meeting be approved. That the solar speed signs purchased by the Police Service Board of the Township of Hamilton be provided to the Township of Hamilton on or before the amalgamation of Northumberland Detachment OPP Joint Police Service Board to ensure the ownership and use remains in the township. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Mark. Questions or comments?
Fly at you a little bit. There was some discussion at our Public Works coordinators meeting, and I guess the question is, now that if we keep the signs within our municipality, whom and where do we send the information from the signs? And I bet you were going to answer that before I asked.
Through you, Mayor Jeb, I still have to talk to Lucas about that. We have to come to some kind of an agreement, and I imagine it'll fall back on somebody's shoulders. I just think you're looking at the person right now who will have to learn through the computer how to download, et cetera, et cetera. So it is quite a task to do that. It's probably an hour and a half, 2 hour job at the most. But I can say that if this moves forward, just to give you a little bit of an update, all the 5 municipality members have taken their examinations. They passed with flying colors. We had to have our police checks done, and thank goodness we all passed that as well. I think a few members are a little nervous, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. The other thing I'd bring forward as well is that we had our very first meeting and were sworn in on the 12th of this month. And we met down in Granby Township and we were sworn in as the official board members. And I believe that we are probably one of the very few boards that have been formed and moving forward. I had a call from Lisa Darling, who is the executive director of the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. And she wants to use our police service board as an example for other boards to move forward. So that's quite an accomplishment for us to have in that direction. So I feel quite proud of our board members and council members. And the only thing I can attribute it towards is the fact that everybody was on board at the time. We never had any dissenting councillors or mayors or anybody in the organizations. It was always positive from the start, get-go, all the way to the finish line. And we're still not at the finish line yet, because we still have our bylaws and everything else to do. But we are 3/4 of the way there. And I thank everybody very, very much, especially the mayors and the council members for their participation. It's been quite an adventure so far. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Mark?
I'm just going to congratulate John. I believe you're the new chair too, which is good for us. One question I wanted to ask you though is, whom is the new secretary treasurer now? Do we have one at this point?
Yes, it was Debbie McBride from Alderman Township. She was with their police service board and she comes as very highly qualified. So we've employed her so far. And our deputy, if you'd like to know, our deputy, our vice chair is Lou Rinaldi. So I have my back up there. So
Again, thank you. Any further questions, comments? Arthur, please?
If I can, through you, Mayor Jib, and with respect to Councillor Davison's comments, we do have the solar signs in our possession. We do have the software, and we're in this process. I'm in the process of discussing with Lucas Kelly, Manager of Public Works, as well as with our IT representative on downloading that software, how it actually can then be taken to the machines once they're installed in the locations for those installations, and then feeding that information back. But correct, Councillor Levisham was correct in that we want to know where to provide that back, but we're working through it to get the technology in place and then make them visible in the community and then provide that information at a future date. Okay.
good, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? We do have a motion on the floor that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. Where are we going here now? Daphne, down. Okay, under Public Works and Infrastructure, item 13 on our agenda. The failure of 2 Deerfield distribution pumps, and I'm sure we've all heard about this many times. Prepared motion. The council receives report WTR 2024-08, failure of 2 Deerfield distribution pumps for information. And the council approves the replacement for the cost of $9,534.41 to be funded from the Water Capital Reserve. And this will be a recorded vote, I'm sure, so we'll ask for a motion, please. Moved by John, seconded by Larry. Questions and comments? Could I turn to Daphne, please, for a recorded vote?
For you, Mr. Mayor, please answer yea or nay. Councillor Butter. Councillor Davison.
Yay.
Councillor Levisham. Deputy Mayor Williamson.
Yay.
And Mayor Jib.
Yay.
Carried unanimously.
Item 13.2 on our agenda, White Road North, speed limit reduction. Motion reads, the council receives report, Public Works and Infrastructure 2024-04, White Road North and South, speed limit reduction for information. And the council directs staff to publish notice of the proposed speed reduction on White Road North and South from 80 kilometers, which is an assumed, to 50 kilometers per hour on the municipal website and prepare a bylaw for presentation at the May 21st, 2024 council meeting. And further, that staff be directed to post the appropriate signage in this area. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by John. Any questions or comments? I'll just provide one. I thought we did this years ago, but anyway, definitely going to be done now. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Moving on to corporate services, 15.1 on our agenda. Delegation of authority for routine administrative tasks. Motion reads that council receives report CD 2024-04, delegation of authority for routine administrative tasks for information, and that bylaw 2024-22, being the delegation of authority bylaw, be brought forward for consideration and approval. Mover, please. John, seconder, Bruce. Questions or comments? Larry?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think the public is going to have some remarks about this, is that we're giving delegation to staff to take over the business of council, and that's not the case. But there's a couple of examples that I just want to make sure that we're clear on. Is item number 3, execute agreements and other documents related to the general control and management of the affairs of the township. Just want to make sure that what that means. Item number 3 in the.
Arthur, do you want to field that, please?
Sure, through you, Mayor Chip. It's not defined specifically, but it could be any sort of general agreement or agreement that we have in place already. For example, we have a inspection arrangement with the county with respect to septics and water. Those are 2 agreements council approved. One of them is they're coming up for renewal, or as they come up for renewal, do we come back to council to have them executed again, but council's already given its approval? Or is it a case it's now an administrative item that could now be approved? So that might be an example under 3. The delegate would be the role of chief administrative officer. And we've identified that limitation is, of course, you involve the review of the relevant department as well as consultation with finance in that process. We also noted, just with respect to your comments earlier, this is definitely intended to extend the authorities as permitted under the Municipal Act, but to act within direction and direction from council. So it's not to take away from the responsibilities, but it's to administer it on behalf of council.
Any further questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 15.2 on our agenda, council remuneration. Prepared motion, the council receives report 2024-04, council remuneration policy, and the council approves the council remuneration policy as submitted, and that council approves the bylaw to provide for the remuneration and expense to township council members. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by John, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 17.1 under communications. It is recommended the Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The agenda items of 17.2 to 17.3 of the April 16th agenda 2024 regular council meeting be received. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. Questions, comments? Mark?
I look at 17.2 and I think staff's done an admirable job and of course they've deserved the recognition. I haven't looked at our website and I don't have Facebook on it that I get from the municipality. Is this presented on there anywhere that we could, give some recognition to our staff through that? Has that been put on there at all? Has it?
Through you, Mayor Jib, yes, we've put information on the website, the award from last year, and we'll be putting it on this as well. And I believe there was a social media post as well, and a media release.
Okay.
And we received, I saw a posting this morning that was in fact received some local media coverage already. I can
Okay.
send that on to council and to our clerk for sharing as well.
That's great, because it's great news, and it's something we should be very proud of. Our staff's done an admirable job, along with, council's involved somewhat in this too. So it's good for everybody. So it'd be good to have even a picture of staff and that kind of thing to present. So very good. Thank you.
I'm hearing that after this meeting, there's a photo opportunity showing up.
Coincidentally.
Good idea and immediate action, Mark. Any other comments, John?
Just for your, Jib, I agree with Councillor Loveson. It's been an admirable thing to happen. I think it's a very respectful thing that you be recognized, and I think staff and yourself should be recognized totally for everywhere in the province of Ontario. Thank you.
Any other comments? Nezrat, I've spoken to you personally on this already, and I think it's great. I mean, and I must admit that I wouldn't truly know how many members of our organization are involved with this. I mean, there's the obvious, but it's probably pretty much everybody that steps up to the plate and works on this, and then has it pulled together by the finance team. We almost should have everybody in our organization in this photo op, which I know is impossible, but to all of those that's in that secondary position, that doing the work as diligently as they do and providing the information, and to have it pulled together 2 years in a row is unbelievable. And I don't want to jinx it, but I will say that in my first email back to Nezrat, I did use the question of, I did include the word in a question of three-peat. So, congrats to everyone. Congrats to everyone. Thank you all. Where are we? I lost my train of thought. William. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Did anyone want to speak to 17.3 about Senior of the Year award? Larry, I know you're generally involved. Daphne, you're generally involved. Any promotional time you would like at this moment, or should we move on? Larry, please.
Well, I would hope everyone would take advantage of this. And we have a number of seniors within our communities that have done tremendous work in the past. And here's an opportunity to be recognized for the hard work you've done over not just the last year, but the years that you've been involved in all these organizations. And we look forward to getting some of these nomination documents in so that we can forward those on to the province, and also to include in our own community recognition awards for nomination for this coming, what is it, November. So yes, I hope people hear about this, and we're promoting it on the Facebook and website, and that we get some nominations in, because it's closing on the 19th. Is that correct? No. 25th at noon. So please get your nominations in today. Thank you.
I think I would be remiss if I didn't comment about the enjoyment that we all had last year with our Senior of the Year presentation. So hopefully we can duplicate that Well, it will be a big job to duplicate that. I guess the other comment I have is, do we by chance have that on our electronic signs? We do. I hadn't seen it myself, so great. Thank you very much. Moving on to 18.1. Bylaws. Prepared motion. The bylaw 2024-22 being a bylaw to delegate authority for administrative matters be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 16th day of April 2024. Mover, please. Larry, seconder. Bruce. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 18.2. Excuse me for a second. 18.2, bylaw to establish 2024 tax rates. The motion reads that bylaw 2024-23 being a bylaw to establish 2024 tax rates be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed the 16th day of April 2024. Mover, please. Moved by John, second by Mark. Questions or comments? Mark?
Just going to make a quick comment that the county tax rate is almost the same as our tax rate within our municipality, which is a little bit scary when you see it that close.
Previously, when we were talking about the county, I said I wouldn't comment publicly. I'm going back to that comment. Feel free to quote me on that at any point in time. Any other comments? It's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 16.3. Being a bylaw for council remuneration and expenses. The motion reads that bylaw 2024-24 being a bylaw to provide remuneration and expenses of council members be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed the 16th day of April 2024. Mover, please. Moved by Mark, second by Bruce. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to 24.1 on our agenda, being our confirmatory bylaw. The bylaw 2024-26 being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of council meeting held on April 16th, 2024, and to authorize its execution be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed the 16th day of April 2024. Mover, please. Larry. Seconder, Bruce. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 25, adjournment. Motion reads that the regular council meeting held on April 16th, 2024 be adjourned at 1:58 p.m. Mover, Mark. Seconder, Larry. All those in favor? Carried.